Hello and welcome back to the KCC channel. I'm Rob and I hope you are having a wonderful day today. Today, we're jumping into some malicious compliance. Today's video is brought to us by the Sanding channel. Head on over there to see things get destroyed in 30 seconds or less. Link in the description down below. Alright, our first story today comes to us from Petty Rusty. You get angry and belittle me when I want to follow the instruction manual on your new piece of kit? Enjoy your brand new rusty wheel slicer. Let's jump right in. It's been years, but I'm still worried that this person is going to hunt me down in my sleep, hence the throwaway. I used to work at a deli shop / cafe place just to make ends meet while I went to uni, and the owner of that place was a real piece of work. If you got on her bad side, you were on the crap list, and she would be both openly and passively aggressive with the general vibe that you were an incompetent idiot no matter what you did. I heard that woman scream at a 15-year-old on her second day because she had mixed up coffee in teacups, which differed in size by about an ounce, just to give you an idea of her personality. After this whole experience, my dad told me that, as a general hint, it may be good to be suspicious if a workplace hires exclusively teen girls with no experience, because they're very unlikely to recognize crappy workplace treatment. There were two people in this place who didn't take her crap. Me, a mid-20s recovering addict who's seen way worse, and a 45-year-old Iranian man who told her she could go F herself when she berated him for not being willing to come in early to his 11-hour shift to prep ingredients, off the clock of course. I liked that dude. With the stage set, on to the malicious compliance. When I started, this place desperately needed a new wheel meat slicer. The one they had made constant screeching noise and drove everyone crazy. About a month and a half into my employment, they got one. Industrial grade, cost $5,000. Both looked and worked accordingly. Amazing piece of kit. As we were all celebrating and unpacking it, I flipped through the instruction booklet to look up how it works, and specifically how to clean it, as there were quite a few parts. Manual says to clean everything detachable thoroughly, but that the wheel itself should be cleaned by letting it run on very low speed with safety precautions and using a cloth and alcohol-based cleaning agent on the exposed part. There were some pictures and detailed instructions on how to do this, and it explicitly stated not to take the whole wheel off and deep clean it, as this would remove the wheel lubricant and anti-corrosive agent and risk damage to the machine, and to especially not let water or any cleaning agents get into the machine without making sure to thoroughly replace any lubricant. I was working the evening shift, so 99% of the time it was up to me to clean it. The instructions is how I clean the machine, because I trust the designer to know how to clean it. Or I do for about 2 days until my boss sees me, asks what the F I'm doing, and why I'm not taking the wheel off to clean it. She berates me about food safety and hygiene standards, telling me how disgusting I am for doing it this way. I stand my ground and inform her I do it this way because of the instructions, that I'm following the manual, and explain the reason behind it. If we scrub it down, especially the inner part, the grease will go away a lot faster and will risk damage to the machine. She basically tells me to shove it and do it her way. Now, I'm not going to ruin a $5,000 thing because one woman doesn't understand how lubrication works, but the very next day, my manager sees me clean the machine and gives me an extremely condescending talk down on how this isn't how we approach hygiene, and how boss told me you don't seem to understand food safety. My explanation falls on deaf ears again, and I'm also informed not only am I expected to take the wheel off and scrub it at the end of the day, but after every use. Boss also wants me to make sure I spray off the inside section to ensure there's no bacteria in there, with some hints that there'd apparently been a whole colony of life growing in there due to my 2-day negligence. She wants me to spray soap and water mixture into the cogs of a machine they just bought. The blade is stainless steel, but the effing cogs aren't. Effing fine. If that's the way you want me to do it, that's what I will do. Every day, 5 times a day, I take that effing machine apart and scrub it down. Every day, I see that lubrication disappear more and more, and after a week, it's all gone, eventually becoming replaced by growing patches of rust. I feel bad for the machine, but I do as I've been told. I only work 6 days a week, so every day I come in after my break thinking that surely yesterday my manager would have reacted. Nope, she takes it apart just like I do, clean it like I do, and doesn't seem to think twice about the fact that this brand new machine is rusting apart in front of our eyes. In fact, she goes the extra mile and also scrubs the cog itself, which is probably why a year or so worth of lubricant disappeared in 1 week. The thing about rusty machinery is that it usually works up until a certain point, but once it reaches that point, there's no going back. One day, I turn it on, and it makes a screeching noise I can only imagine came from the soul of this bit of kit, wondering why God has forsaken it. And it's like the clocks all stop. My coworker in the pastry section comes over to ask what the F that noise is. My boss and manager come into the room with the same question. And I just shrug and slice my salami. Boss tells her coworker to go get some lubrication for the gears, and after a minute, he puts some effing spray-on oil lube in front of me and tells me to lube the gears up. I ask him where the lithium lubricant paste is, since according to the instructions, that is what you need, and he seems flabbergasted that putting something made for hinges and ball bearings isn't appropriate for a meat slicer. 2 days and some tinnitus later, he's acquired some grease and then proceeds to be stumped when I let him know I'm not going to stop doing my regular job to spend 30 minutes greasing up this machine, unless someone else takes over my station or they pay me overtime. My boss is meanwhile demanding to know why I haven't told them we needed to stock up on lithium grease, which I don't even bother to respond to. I make sandwiches, I'm not your mechanic. I left that job a few weeks later, and when I did, the machine was still crying the song of its ancestors every time we turned it on. And we were still scrubbing it down from the inside out daily, of course. I have since then gotten a sneaking suspicion I know what happened to its predecessor, and me and my dad, who is actually a mechanic, still laugh about it sometimes. My boss did ask rhetorically at one point how the heck the machine got to that stage so fast. I answered that it's probably because we've been scrubbing the lubrication and corrosion protection off several times a day, and I take great pleasure in the memory that she completely ignored me. It's the only time while I was there that she didn't snap back at me, and I like to think she remembered back to when I explicitly told her that if we clean this thing in that way, this is exactly what would happen. Overall, I don't think a $5,000 machine would make or break anything, but F me, did that feel good. Well, OP, from the way you've described this, it just sounds like your bosses wanted that thing to be squeaky clean. Oh, that was lame. All this talk about a meat slicer reminded me of the time that I worked at that fast food restaurant. You know, the one that has the cowboy hat on the logo, and they deal almost exclusively in roast beef. Yeah, that one. Anyway, I was in there, had the roast beef on the slicer, and it got knocked off onto the floor. My manager told me to wash the roast beef off in the sanitation sink and put it back on the slicer and continue working. Oh, that was my last day at that job. This was well over 20 years ago now, but that memory is still so clear. Our next story today comes to us from Cole Carmot. Approve the order? Okay, boss. Let's jump right in. I don't know whether to put this in Tales from Retail or here, but I ultimately decided here since I did what I was told, knowing there would be fallout. A couple years ago, before I joined Reddit, I worked front desk at a print and marketing shop, receiving orders from customers and processing them to be ready to print. A woman came in while we were rather busy, and we'll call her Fortunate for the eventual play on words. One of the ways I normally handle this is handing order forms to waiting customers to fill out their contact info while they wait. This woman was strange. She filled out the order form, but waited until all the customers were out of the store before she came to the counter. She handed a USB to me and the order form. To my surprise, the order form was already all filled out, from the quantity of pages, type of paper, binding options, laminated pages. To say she wanted everything but the kitchen sink would be an understatement, as this was easily a $100 order for what appeared to be a single copy of a 23-page book. The file was even PDF format already, so essentially print ready. However, Fortunate then gave me a cryptic request as I plugged the USB in. Could you please complete the order without looking at it? Now, while some would immediately call this a red flag, for me, it's just another Tuesday evening. It's not uncommon for people in relationships to get specialized calendars or photo prints done of, let's call them distasteful nudes. Not raunchy stuff, but straddling that border. Holiday calendars and Valentine's Day photo books have desensitized me to that stuff. Unfortunately, I have to open the file to make sure everything is formatted correctly. Even then, as the finishing work gets done, people will have to look at it. I do offer to her, however, that if she is concerned about many people seeing it, I could do it myself and ensure only I look at it to minimize eyes on it. Alternatively, she could also do it in the self-serve section and forego the finishing. Fortunate gets flustered at this point and without saying a word gets up and leaves. I called to tell her that she left her USB, but she just left and told me to destroy it. Okay, now I'm curious. I plugged in the USB and there was one file, doc_1.pdf. I opened the file and while I don't remember exactly what I was expecting, it wasn't this. Your husband is cheating on you with me, in custom font with a picture of a guy nude on a bed and who I assume is Fortunate beside him. Fortunate was Mistress Fortunate. Her face was expertly blurred out. This was clearly a graphic designer. The document was short and to the point. One sentence in big custom font on each page. It explained who Fortunate was and that she had no idea that the husband, who will be named Jerk, was married as they were dating. Pictures and everything. She explained that she wanted to keep her identity a secret to protect herself, but felt the wife needed to know the moment she learned of her. Okay, well, that's a story that isn't over yet. Later that day, I was processing orders from our online system. This basically involves opening files, skimming through them, making them print ready, then approving them for production. I did not expect much, until suddenly, I opened a file titled doc_1.pdf and saw the following. Your husband is cheating on you with me. Yep, Mistress Fortunate put through the order on our online system, but something was off. Fortunate had a very unique name, but this name was Mary, not real name, duh. The phone number and address were also different. She didn't. I immediately brought this to my manager's attention. While I currently have the best boss ever, my first boss was not so good. We'll call her Karen. I told Karen what I thought was going on and said I was uncomfortable approving this order. Karen took the USB and looked the file over. She then asked me if it went against any of our big no's. Basically, anything illegal, copyrighted stuff, sheet music, or original art not signed off by the artist. I said no, but explained that I didn't think the customer listed on the contact info was the customer. If it doesn't go against our policies, we have to produce it. Okay, you're the boss. I'm pretty sure she was only seeing dollar signs for minimum work, but whatever. I pushed the job through to production, though add a note saying, under instruction of Karen, to cover my own butt. The night shift manager, who is now my current manager, let's call him D, messaged me about the job as it was pushed to them due to the amount of finishing it needed, and I told them the story behind it. D told me that I should not have to deal with the fallout, and told me to take the next 2 days personal time off, and he will make sure to reimburse that time. I gladly did. The fallout. Obviously, this is secondhand information, but things got heated. When my replacement called Mistress Fortunate the next day to tell her her order was ready, the person on the other side was confused. She didn't place an order. My coworker insisted she come to pick it up. A few hours later, a person who was not Mistress Fortunate came in to pick up the order, Mary. I don't remember the exact way it was described to me. It was in sports lingo, but it translated to, she didn't even open the book, she saw the cover page, threw the book at me, and marched out the door. There then proceeded a fight in the parking lot between Mary and Jerk. Mary eventually took the keys to the car and left Jerk out on the sidewalk. Jerk then came into the print shop and started blaming everyone in there for ruining his life. A brochure display was smashed on a self-serve printer, breaking the display and cracking the printer casing. fortunately still functional. Those things are like Nokia phones. Cops were called, but Jerk was gone by the time they arrived. Karen tried to throw me and the night crew under the bus for the incident. We had a meeting with HR where Karen screwed up and the HR rep had a brain. Well, technically it's not his fault for approving the order. How was he supposed to know it wasn't her? Because he told me he knew it was her. Wait, so he brought this to your attention and you still had him approve the order? Points out the note I placed on the order. Karen opens her mouth and inserts her foot. Come to think about it, I think this started the downfall of Karen as my manager, but I didn't have anything to do with that story, so I'll leave it to the ones who led that coup against her. Why did this story come up years after it happened? Well, my boss was going through files on Karen's old computer, and he found a file named doc_1.pdf. Ay, if this was one that was maybe mailed out to Mary without any interaction from the people at the printing shop, then I could probably get behind it. But Mistress Fortunate, well, she put all of the workers in this place really in danger because she didn't know how that guy was going to react. I mean, I think she's actually kind of lucky that the guy only damaged property and didn't actually harm any of the people working in the store at that time. There were many other ways that Mistress Fortunate could have let Mary know that her husband was cheating on her. I don't think this was the best way. Check out both OPs linked in the description down below. I thank you for watching. I hope you have a wonderful day, and we'll see you tomorrow.